Well, hey everybody, it's Sandy and welcome back to my channel dedicated to helping you advocate for your own health one topic at a time. So today we're going to make yogurt, and if you want to get in the kitchen with me, just keep watching. Fermenting milk and making yogurt is new for me, even though I've been fermenting vegetables for quite some time. I can't believe how much easier it is, by the way. And the genesis of this was that I bought an Instant Pot. I have found that it's really such a pleasure to make yogurt in the Instant Pot. Now let's have a brief sidebar about the Instant Pot, because I recently bought mine and I'm very picky about whatever kind of appliance I'll bring into my house. Now I'm going to link the Instant Pot that I have down below. This is not an affiliate link. It's just going to take you to the product. I got my Instant Pot on sale for like $69.99. I think they're being clearanced out. It's the Star Wars edition at Williams-Sonoma. So just to give you a sense of how super easy the yogurt making is in the Instant Pot, you basically need a couple of things in the way of equipment and exactly 2 ingredients, which we're going to go over in more detail in the kitchen. The 2 ingredients are milk and yogurt, or some kind of a starter. I'm going to be using a particular yogurt as my starter that I'm going to mix in with my milk for the ferment. You can use whole milk, skim milk. I don't think you can use a fat-free milk. I personally am very much in favor of the higher fat, so I don't buy low-fat yogurts or no-fat yogurts. When it comes to dairy, the higher fat products actually have less sugar. So then the second and last ingredient that you need is a starter. Now you can buy all kinds of fancy starters that come in powders and you save that in your fridge for a while. I don't bother with that. Most people just use a yogurt. So you can use any yogurt that you like. It needs to have active yogurt cultures. There are certain bacteria that it should have if you're going to have a really good ferment. I'm going to list those here, and then I'm also going to list them down in the description box. You might have to experiment and see what you like in terms of the flavor, because some are going to be tangier than others. And just how tangy your yogurt is also a function of how long you let it ferment. All right, so welcome back to my kitchen. I'm actually going to be starting this recipe a little later tonight because I let mine ferment for about 12 hours. So that sort of necessitates that I start it in the evening. So I'll actually show the steps in the evening. I'm just going to show you my ingredients right now. So I've got my whole milk, organic. Notice it says homogenized and pasteurized, but not ultra pasteurized. That was a costly mistake. Small bowl. This is all I use. I use a whisk, some kind of a deep spoon or a ladle to ladle out some of the warm milk. Now I did manage to find a Greek yogurt that is 100% grass-fed and organic and plain, and it is the Stony Field. I really like the mild taste of this one. Now there's a proportion of milk to yogurt that you're going to be using. For every half a gallon of milk, the recommendation for the amount of yogurt to use as starter varies, and it's from 2 tablespoons to 4 tablespoons. I'm going to be trying today's recipe with 3 tablespoons just because I've done it with 2, and I'm wondering if I'm going to get a little thicker yogurt and have a little less straining to do if I use just a little bit more of the yogurt starter. So I'm going to be using a half a gallon of milk to 3 tablespoons of this yogurt as the starter. Now, it's also a really good idea to have a food thermometer. I used to get really intimidated as soon as a recipe called for a thermometer. I turned the page or clicked off because I just thought it's going to have to be something really intimidating. It's really no big deal. And finally, I use a yogurt strainer. Now, this is optional. It just depends how thick you like your yogurt. We like our yogurt really thick, like Greek-style yogurt, and even thicker. You can continue to strain it past that stage and end up with something that you can use as cream cheese. One of the benefits of straining the yogurt is that you get rid of all the whey, which really means you're getting rid of the sugars. So and finally, there's my R2D2 Instant Pot. So let's get a look. Seriously, is he cute or what? So for $69.99 instead of $120, I got my R2D2. He is a duo. Just about anything that's pressure cooked in here, because this is a multi-cooker, it's not just a pressure cooker, and that's one of the reasons I thought it deserved some real estate in my kitchen, because it doesn't do just one thing. So far, we're really happy together. Okay, so I'm back. It's evening time now, and R2D2 is ready to go to work. I'm almost ready to go to bed. So when you open up your Instant Pot, first of all, in the lid, there's this gasket. And by the way, I don't know if you're new to the Instant Pot like I am. People say buy a few extra of these, get on Amazon. Yes, I agree, because they do absorb some of the smells of some of the foods that you're going to make. So you don't want to be making something really mild if you've just made a curry or something like that. For yogurt, you can just take this right out because we're not going to be pressure cooking. We're not really needing a seal. And I'm going to pull my liner out just so I can be a little bit closer to you. You don't have to sterilize this. You do have to start clean. And I've got my half gallon of pasteurized homogenized milk. I'm going to pour the entire half gallon right into my pot liner. Oh, you guys, the first time I did this when I used the ultra pasteurized milk, got up in the morning, I was so excited. I went to the kitchen, opened it up, and there I had just this pot of warm milk. I was so disappointed. And as soon as I Googled, like, why did my milk not become yogurt? It was all over the place. Don't use ultra pasteurized. Like, could somebody have put that in the recipe? It seems like there should be a screaming warning about that in the recipe when you read it. All right, anyway, so I've got a half a gallon of my whole milk in here. I'm going to put that into the Instant Pot. And I've got the lid. Makes that cute little sound. And again, I'm leaving that nozzle towards sealing. And there is a button here for yogurt, even on the Duo, which is a really basic model. So I'm going to press yogurt, and I'm going to press it again, and it says boil. And I'm just going to leave it alone, and it's going to beep and tell me when it is boiled. So this is the first phase of making yogurt, where the milk comes to a certain temperature that's hot enough to kill anything that we don't want growing in there. And the sweet spot is somewhere between 160 to 180 degrees. Ideally, it's right at 170. Okay, so my Instant Pot R2D2 just beeped. So what I'm going to do now is remove the cover, and before I take this pot out, I'm just going to check the temperature and make sure that we're done. Because if it's not quite up to temperature, sometimes you have to just cover it and leave it for a few more minutes. It looks like we're going to be fine here. It's already at 164, 166, and at 168 I'll take it. You might want pot holders. I'm pretty calloused. And one thing you might have to do is remove any skin that's formed at the very top. There's usually just a little bit. So now what we need to do is cool this down enough so that we can mix it with the starter. If we were to mix 170-degree milk with the starter, it would kill all the probiotics in that starter and it would be of no use to us. So we have two options now. One is to just let it cool on its own until it gets down to around 115, 110, somewhere in there, degrees. And on its own, that would probably take about 45 minutes. So I'm going to speed that up, and I'm going to put this in a larger pot that's got some ice water in it, and then I'm going to watch it pretty carefully because it will start to drop. Once it drops, it will drop quickly. All right, so here I've got a larger pot with some ice water in it, and I'm just going to basically be putting this into that water bath. And I'm just going to watch the temperature. I anticipate this is going to take between 5 and 10 minutes. So in here we have 3 tablespoons of the starter yogurt that we're using. And what I'm going to be doing is tempering. So I'm going to add a little bit of the cooled milk to this and then add the whole thing back in. If you were to just dump this all into that milk, you'd probably get a lot of lumps, and it might be detrimental to the bacteria, so it's important to kind of bring that all up to temperature slowly. So you do that by ladling in a half a cup or a cupful, whisking it, and then once that's nice and smooth, adding it back in to the rest of the milk. And it's right about 111, which is perfect. So that took less than 5 minutes with the ice water. And I did just dry the bottom of my pot liner so that I don't put that wet pot against the heating element. So I'm just going to ladle a little bit into the yogurt. And I'm just going to give that a little whisk to try to get it smooth. And once it's smooth, I add just 1 more spoonful. Just so I know I'm bringing it up to temperature nice and slowly. And when it's nice uniform, I'll put the whole thing back in. And I'm going to give it another whisk just to try to get it evenly distributed, because this is going to sit very still for the night. See where we are temperature-wise. And we're still at about 110, which is perfect. So I'm going to put my pot liner back into the Instant Pot. Add my lid. Again, I have it on sealing, but I don't have the gasket, the sealing ring in there. And now I'm going to press yogurt again, and it says boil, so I don't want that. So I hit it one more time, and it defaults to 24 hours. Now, that's at less. There's these 3 buttons here, less, normal, and more. I'm going to hit it until it says normal, and then that defaults to 13 hours, just because that's what I used last time. I'm going to go to 12 hours just because of what time it's going to be. That's all I'm going to have to do. He's going to beep after I haven't touched it for a few seconds so that I know that it's working. There we go. And now the Instant Pot will count up, and it's going to count all the way to 12 hours because that's what I told it to, and after that it's just going to stop. Whether I get here to turn it off or not. The longer you ferment it, the tangier and the more sour it gets. I find that 12 hours with what I'm using is perfect. All right, so R2D2 is going to stay up all night and do his thing, and I'm going to go to bed. I'll see you in the morning. All right, good morning. Well, did a little yoga, had my tea, and came in to find that R2D2 is done. He says end, and let's see what we got. I do want to mention that when you open this lid, there's going to be a lot of condensation on the underside of the lid, and I want to try to minimize how much of that drops down into the yogurt, just because, as I said, I personally like my yogurt sort of thick and creamy. I end up straining it, so the less water I get in there, the better. So I'm going to really gently turn this lid and try to quickly take it over to the sink. A lot of water that pops off of that. This looks perfect. Not that I wasn't happy with it the other times, but I think that the 3 tablespoons instead of 2, you can see it. It's kind of sliding in a big glob. I am still going to strain this, but this is perfectly good. Some people like their yogurt this texture. For plenty of applications, this is a perfectly fine consistency. I just like to get more of the whey out so that it's creamier. Sometimes I even like to keep a little bit of it and strain it even further so that I get something that's more like cream cheese, and that's exactly how we use it. Okay, so I've got this yogurt strainer. I'm going to put everything into the strainer here, and it's pretty much going to fill this up. Now, I do find that I end up with kind of a coating on the bottom of the Instant Pot, and I don't scrape that off because I just don't think it'll be the same consistency. It would be perfectly safe to use it. The good news is this comes off really easily with a little steel wool. Okay, and then the lid for this particular strainer, which I'm going to link below, it's kind of counterintuitive. You sort of think it's going to go this way, that it just looks like this would be the way on, but it's not. It's with the writing on the outside. So in this direction, it actually snaps on. So there's really no wrong way to do this. The instructions that come with the strainer say to leave this in the fridge and strain for anywhere from 3 to 18 hours. I usually go more toward the 12 to 18, but the nice thing is you can open this up and check it. You can even move it around a bit if a lot of liquid has come out, and then there's some pockets at the top that can't seem to get down near the strainer, so you can actually move it around with a spoon and then put it back in the fridge for a while. So now into the fridge this goes, and I'll let you see how it turns out. I'm really happy though with the way it turned out so far. Okay, so I'm back. It's been about 9 hours, and I know I said that I normally leave this yogurt in the strainer closer to the 12 to 18 mark. As I said when I took it out of the Instant Pot this morning, I was really pleasantly surprised to see what thick yogurt I had. So as I've kept an eye on it during the day, I realized I think we're done here. So it has collected quite a bit of whey at the bottom. I'm just going to spell that out. I hear some people do use that whey for different things. I just haven't ventured over there yet. So with this, basically you just pull it out, and I'm going to spoon it out and put it into a dish. Let me just show you just how thick this got. Really thick yogurt. It's really nice. So I'm going to spoon that into my dish. Now, first thing people are going to wonder about cleaning this strainer, and it looks like kind of a bear to clean. It's not. The trick is to just be really patient with it and soak it inside of this reservoir. Just get some sudsy water and soak the whole thing, and any yogurt that's stuck on that fine mesh will come up very easily. And the important thing is to rinse it really well. Sometimes this fine mesh can actually hold that soap, and you don't want that. You want it completely rinsed out. Guys, I can't believe this is the best batch. I think for me the perfect amount is 3 tablespoons of the yogurt starter to the half gallon of milk, and about 8 hours in the strainer. Okay, so it looks like, see, my cup ran over. I got quite a bit of yogurt here. I am going to... All right, fresh yogurt. It does have a lot of tang to it. I personally like that. I think it tastes like really high quality yogurt, especially because it's got this texture where it's nice and thick and smooth. It's just got a very luxurious texture. If you are sort of just getting yourself accustomed to tangy and you're using this recipe and this technique, you might want to default your Instant Pot somewhere between 8 and 12 hours. This was 12, so maybe you want to go 8 to 10 and try that. I personally really like this. I think this came out great, and I'm going to keep making it this way. All right, I'm going to make some tzatziki sauce that we can have tomorrow with lunch. Okay, so it's been about 18 hours now since I last checked in, and I'm just going to show you some of the things I've come up with. First of all, we have been enjoying the yogurt just as is, but I did make that tzatziki sauce I had talked about. Now here's our tzatziki sauce. So all that is a little bit of yogurt, cucumber, garlic, tiny bit of salt. I drizzled some olive oil and sprinkled some dill on top and then garnished with some Kalamata olives. We're going to have this for lunch today. I also took a smaller strainer and I set aside some of the already strained yogurt in order to strain it further and make a cream cheese. And that's right here. So I'm just going to give you a look at that texture. My son is actually here right now, and I think he's going to have that on a bagel today. And then finally, you know, everybody has their version of a yogurt parfait, so I made a few of these and put them in the fridge so people can just grab them for snacks. It's just the yogurt with a little bit of raw organic honey. And then on top of it, I sprinkle a few blueberries. I always have some frozen organic blueberries in the fridge. And then just depends what you want for a little bit of texture. This is a mixture of coconut, walnuts, almonds, a few seeds and things like that. Sometimes people like a little bit of crunch on top of that yogurt. At least at my house they do. So this sits in the fridge. I'm sure this will be gone today. Now you might find that you follow the directions that I've shown you in terms of the proportions, but even different ingredients can render a different result. So depending on which yogurt you use for a starter, you might get a different flavor than I did, depending on which milk you're using. So be prepared to play with it a little bit. One of the best tips I've ever received about learning to use the Instant Pot is to start with things that are pretty cheap. So yogurt is time consuming, but it's really cheap. And I think it's really hard to make it fail unless you use the ultra pasteurized milk that I did the first time. So guys, I really hope you'll try this. It's so much fun, and really the result is so much better than anything I've ever bought in the store. Let me know if you already have any other tips and tricks for making yogurt in the Instant Pot. And until next time, be well. Bye-bye.